The Golden State Warriors are one win away from winning their 4th NBA championship in their last 8 seasons after taking a 3-2 series lead over the Boston Celtics in Game 5. Andrew Wiggins had arguably the greatest game of his entire 8-year career. The Warriors defense had another phenomenal outing, holding the Celtics to under 100 points for the 3rd time this series. Clay, Gary Payton, and Poole had great games. Draymond had his best game of the finals. And on top of this, the Warriors were able to come away with this win, while Steph had historically one of his worst shooting nights ever in the NBA, where all of which and more I will be getting into later in this video. A huge reason as to why the Warriors are on the doorstep of another NBA title is because of a man where a year ago today, if I told you he'd be one of the pivotal reasons the Warriors won a championship in 2022, you would call me insane. That man, his name is Andrew Christian Wiggins, and in the biggest game of his life, he did more than just deliver. He stepped up to all of the pressure and intensity surrounding this finals game, silenced the haters, and had the best game of his NBA career. Shooting the ball, yes, he's definitely had a better game in his career, as he did go 0 for 6 from 3, but I'm talking about how this is the brightest stage he's ever played on. In the heat of the NBA Finals, the Warriors counted on him to be the guy to make plays as Steph was struggling from beyond the arc, and he proved he was the guy who could be trusted having the best offensive performance on this team. Aside from his 3-point shooting, Wiggins went 12 for 17 from 2, and some of the shots he was making were extremely tough, but he made them look effortless. He was making stepbacks in defenders' faces, turnaround jumpers, tough drives to the bucket, and everything in between, and this resulted in him finishing the game with a team-high 26 points on the night. Obviously, his efforts didn't end just there, as he managed to grab 13 rebounds as well, with 2 steals and a block. I know this has been a storyline all season of the rejuvenation of Wiggins' career on this Golden State Warriors roster, but I honestly think that what we've seen out of him this playoffs is him living up to the potential of being the #1 pick in the draft and finally putting a rest to the narrative of people calling him a bust, and it's 100% showing in his game and in his personality. He looks way happier, he's more confident with the rock, and you could just tell he's having the most fun he's ever had playing this sport. His defense has shined all playoffs long, having to guard guys like Morant, Doncic, and Tatum, and doing a phenomenal job on all of them. He's played the 2nd most minutes in this series out of both teams, and he's still been able to perform like this without looking gassed out there on the floor. I personally think he's worth his $30 million multi-year contract from this season alone, as he's been the 2nd best player on the Warriors this playoffs, and there could even be an argument that he's the 2nd best player in this series behind Curry, as his play has been mandatory for the success the Dubs have had. As Wiggins played a huge role for this team on the defensive end, it's been the team's defense as a whole that has propelled them not only in last night's game, but also all series long. They've held Boston to under 100 points 3 times this series, which wound up being the 3 wins the Warriors have had. And to emphasize how much of an accomplishment this is the fact that before this series, the Celtics have only been held to under 100 points twice. People often try to talk about the turnover issues with Boston, being that when they have 16 or more, they lose, and anything under they win, but people often forget about the idea of maybe it's the Warriors playing great defense against them, forcing them to make bad decisions, and exploiting the fact that they don't have a true point guard on their roster. And no, that's not a shot at Marcus Smart. He's a phenomenal player who's also playing banged up, but it's the pure playmaker in which I don't truly believe they have, at least not in this series. Moving on to the rest of the team's individual performances, Clay had 2 huge threes in the 3rd quarter to help keep the game close during the Celtics surge, and he's also been stepping up in this series defensively. Poole was massive off the bench, hitting another buzzer beater from half, and Gary Payton, like Wiggins, had arguably the biggest game of his career, as he had 15 points, 5 rebounds, and 3 steals, all while he shot 75% from the field and was a game-high plus 16 on the night. Those stats might not jump out at you, but given the fact that this is the NBA Finals and his role on this team, it's his efforts off the bench that inevitably were a huge reason as to why they won this game, and you have to take that into account as he's never been anywhere close to this big of a stage, yet he's still performing in this massive of a way. Even though Draymond fouled out yet again, I still felt like this was easily his best game of the finals. It isn't saying too much considering how poorly he's played, but nonetheless, he had a couple of really nice plays and passes that helped ignite some of the energy in this team, and his efforts could have been the difference maker in this one, considering Curry's performance, where if he had a similar outings to games 1 through 4, Boston potentially could have come away with this win. And then lastly, it was the performance of Steph Curry that flooded the headlines for all the wrong reasons, but even then, I think it turned itself into being a highlight of the the night, the fact that Curry had arguably his worst night shooting the ball in a couple of years, yet the Warriors still managed to win this game, which says everything about how this group came together to get the job done. Curry broke his streak for consecutive games in the NBA playoffs with a made three-pointer at 133 playoff games as he went 0 for 9 from beyond the arc, and on top of that, he also shattered his NBA best run of 233 consecutive games with a 3 between the regular season and playoffs combined. A night like this, as many people know, is incredibly uncharacteristic for Steph. He's had bad shooting nights, of course, everyone does, but for him to not hit a single 3 almost never happens, as there's a reason he's the greatest shooter of all time. On top of this, he had his earth-erupting 43-point outing in the game before, which has practically solidified his final MVP trophy if the Warriors win the whole thing, and even before Game 5, Steph had at least 5 threes in each of the first 4 games in the finals, which are more reasons to simply display how this is a complete outlier of how Steph usually plays basketball. Boston got lucky with how Curry shot the ball. Some of the blame could be directed towards Boston's defense, but even then, he hasn't had a game where he hasn't hit even just one 3-point attempt in a very long time. You'd think with a game like this, the headlines should have been the fact that the Celtics snuck away with this win because Curry couldn't throw a rock into the ocean, but unfortunately for them, the Warriors still found a way to get the job done, and this also shows you that this isn't just a one-man show at the top with a perennial MVP candidate. Every time he steps onto the floor, they have more than that with a couple of guys who can step up and win you games when your star doesn't perform, and that right there has to absolutely terrify the Boston Celtics. Boston missed their golden opportunity. They should be up 3-2 right now, but instead it's the other way around. Curry is great at bouncing back from games like this, and although I honestly think he's going to erupt for 30 plus in Game 6, even if he still goes out there and has just an average night for his standards, I believe that that'll be the end of the road for the Boston Celtics with how things are currently clicking for the Dubs. On the other hand as well, Boston looks gassed out there on the floor and is one of the reasons they've been fading away late in games. They've been to back-to-back Game 7s prior to the finals and are playing with multiple guys who are banged up, on top of the fact that they have a very short bench, leading to guys like Tatum, with the load they're already carrying, having to play 40 plus minutes, and it's starting to haunt them on the court. The energy of their fans could be the thing that gives Boston a boost of hope heading into Game 6, but even then, I believe the Warriors are as ready than ever to close this one out and officially cap off what would be a completely rebuilt dynasty. Game 6, Klay is tying up his shoelaces as we speak. Curry, without a doubt, is going to have a better game than Game 5. Wiggins' confidence is sky high as they just have too many options outside of these 3 as well, heading into the next game that have the ability to have the games of their careers. I personally think that the Warriors are going to close it out in Game 6. I've already predicted that in my finals preview before this series, but honestly, the Warriors are just too overwhelming for a group that has already had to go through so much this playoffs alone, where I don't see them coming with the energy to make a comeback. With that being said, the Warriors now have 2 chances to put this one to rest to officially cap off a fairy tale ending of a season that has the possibility of being the beginning of an extremely long dynasty the Warriors have built with their current core and the guys they have up next. Be sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. It's free and it helps me out a ton.